Hi, everybody. I'm Roy Firestone. In 1965, just a year removed from the signing of the Civil Rights Act, the Baltimore Orioles traded for future Hall of Famer Frank Robinson. Frank would go on to win the Triple Crown for the Orioles in 1966 and earn the Most Valuable Player award, teaming up with another future Hall of Famer, Brooks Robinson, Baltimore's star third baseman, and one of the most beloved athletes in the city history. While civil rights legislation was officially in the books, the Jim Crow era in the South was very slow to change. Brooks Robinson grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. He had never ever played against a black player growing up. Frank Robinson grew up in Oakland, California, dealt with discrimination for most of his life. This year, Baltimore newspaper columnist Dan Rodricks wrote a play called No Mean City, a season of baseball, politics, and the fight for civil rights. It is also the story of the friendship of Brooks and Frank Robinson, how they developed a bond during the turbulent 60s and grew to admire and respect one another in difficult times. This is the 60th anniversary of the Orioles' first World Series title, and Brooks and Frank Robinson hit back-to-back home runs in Game 1 of that series with the Dodgers on the way to that title. The columnist and playwright Dan Rodricks joins us now. Well, Dan, thank you very much for joining us. And I want to start with the title, No Mean City. Where did that come from?
That came from a book written by the mayor in 1966, Theodore McKeldin. He wrote a book called No Mean City. And it's taken from a Bible passage, no mean meaning no average, no mediocre city.
Right.
In the time of St. Paul, that's what the meaning was. And I just thought it was also cool because you could interpret it another way too, you know. Given what was going on in 1966, the year the Orioles won their first World Series, I thought it worked first to celebrate McKeldin for his vision about the city that he wrote in that book, but also it could be interpreted as mean because there was some meanness in Baltimore, especially that summer as the Orioles were headed toward the pennant.
African Americans in Baltimore in 1966 made up about 40% of the population. Today it's 60%.
Right.
Is this city an evolved city? I know it's a largely African American city in certain areas, but are some of the problems that Frank and Brooks dealt with in 1966 still there?
Well, I don't know that if a black man like Frank Robinson went to rent an apartment or buy a house in any neighborhood, he would run into that problem. But it is a segregated community. I mean, Baltimore has a high concentration of African American or black people living in Baltimore City. In the year that the Orioles won that World Series, when Frank and Brooks came together, that was when white flight accelerated. I mean, the population in 1966 was over 900,000. McKeldin was considered a major city mayor, courted by LBJ, the President Johnson, for his endorsement.
Right.
We're down below 600,000 now. So in 60 years, we've lost more than a third of the population of the city. And, 1966 is the year after the Voting Rights Act passed, 65, 2 years after the Civil Rights Act passed in 64. And while those were great achievements, there was a lot of pushback from whites. And that's what I encountered when I did my research about what else was going on in 1966 besides the Orioles winning the World Series.
Well, there still is pushback, which we're going to talk about in a few moments.
Yeah.
But I want to show one of the clips. We're going to show two clips of this wonderful play, by the way.
Well,
folks, if you are watching this and you're nearby where the play is going to be running, I know they're going back again in Baltimore to do another run. It's
next
a marvelous
year.
Next year.
Yeah.
It's a marvelous play. But
thank you, Roy.
The scene that we're going to set up here is the first scene where Barbara Robinson tells Frank that she got denied buying that house. And we'll play the scene and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Okay. Yeah.
Barb, what is it? Something wrong?
They're saying there are no houses available in any of the good neighborhoods.
Who's saying that? Are you with Mr. Hoffberger's man?
Yes, we stopped at some tavern so I could call.
Did you talk to that professor, the one with the house for the summer?
Yeah, I got him on the phone. I said, I'm Mrs. Robinson. My husband plays the Orioles, and I understand you have a house for rent.
What'd he say?
He invited me to see it. So Mr. Feingold, Hofberger's man, drove me over there, and
Yeah. What?
when he saw I was black, this man, this big brain Johns Hopkins professor, decided he didn't want to rent the house at all.
He said that?
He said he decided against it. He must have thought I was Mrs. Brooks Robinson, just like that hairdresser, the one who wouldn't do my hair.
Damn it. I'm sorry, Barbara.
I hate this, Frank.
There was a lot of discrimination that Frank Robinson dealt with in the South. Of course, he grew up in Beaumont, Texas. He was born in Beaumont, moved to Oakland. So this really wasn't terribly surprising, I guess, to him. But it was shocking because we are, as you mentioned, just 2 years removed from the Civil Rights Act, a year removed from the Voting Rights Act, 65, his same year, actually, that Frank was traded.
Right.
Was it a startling thing for Frank and Barbara Robinson to deal with, or was it something that just more of the same?
Well, it sounded to me like it was more frustration from previously. In Cincinnati, I don't think they had this problem. I mean, Frank says that in a book that he wrote.
Right.
Baltimore, this was supposed to be a little bit maybe more progressive, city. Turned out to be the northernmost southern city, people say, rather than the southernmost northern city.
Right.
So, yeah, I think but Barbara spent a fair amount of time visiting different houses, and Frank did too, with an employee of Jerry Hofberger, the owner of the Orioles. And they were completely frustrated until they finally found a house with the help of the mayor and with Hofberger's connections.
People talk about this being a post-racial society, and yet, as we speak, the Supreme Court made a ruling yesterday that some have viewed as gutting the Voting Rights Act from 1965. I want to read to you briefly some of the contradictions, seemingly. That might be a kind word to describe how it's okay in some areas but not okay in others. The Supreme Court ruling so far, universities using race criteria to counter historical racism in admissions, that is unconstitutional. You can't do it. But then the ICE agents can use race criteria to target people of color. That is constitutional. Another example, state legislators using race criteria to counter historical voter suppression, unconstitutional. But they want to use race criteria to enact travel bans. That is constitutional. I guess what I'm asking is, are we really moving backwards?
That's what it feels like, Roy. I mean, that Supreme Court decision really drove that home. When the Supreme Court earlier in 2013 started gutting the Voting Rights Act, I almost couldn't believe it. It was as if they said, no, it wasn't as if they said. The Chief Justice said that we have remedied a lot of these wrongs already. Mm-hmm. And this law goes too far in requiring the southern states, where there's historic discrimination against people and oppression of people trying to vote, Black people. We don't have to do that anymore. It's as if he said we are post-racial. Therefore, you don't have to consider race anymore in setting up congressional districts, for instance. It does feel like we're going backwards. I don't know who decided we were post-racial. I mean, when Barack Obama was elected, some people said that. Yeah, I worry about what happens next if we get comfortable with these prejudices again, and they become part of the DNA of society. Maybe they always were there. You know, I hear a lot of people comment that, well, it's always been there. Trump just brought it up. Trump just made people comfortable with being prejudiced, or but I see a fair amount of backlash also to what's been going on here. The ICE, for instance, the aggressive enforcement of immigration laws. One of the reasons that Trump's poll numbers dropped so much is because people do not like that. They thought he was going to deport criminals, right? Instead, we see brown people just being pulled out of their jobs, mulching gardens and doing laundry. So there's been some pushback to that too. So I'm happy to say, yeah.
Jackie Robinson came into baseball, broke the color line literally about 20 years before Frank and Brooks linked up. And of course, it's ironic. Jackie Robinson, Brooks Robinson, Frank, they're all named Robinson.
Right.
But you can make the argument that maybe as much as there was great change through baseball and through society, that there were still challenges. But I do want you to look at this clip. This is the second clip in the play when Brooks and Frank were kind of jovial a little bit, but they talked about friendship and they talked about being teammates. I don't want to make too much of it because we still have real critical issues in our society. But this was a good moment, and this was a moment that was somewhat inspiring in this play. Watch.
Before you go, I'd like to say something, so we're square.
What's that?
Well, a couple of sports writers, I don't usually pay attention to those guys, but a couple of them said they didn't think we'd get along, being so different.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, Frank. We're both right-handed, and we both like bonanza.
No. I mean, they thought I'd come in and push you out as leader of this team.
You pay no mind to that gossipy stuff, Frank.
But just so you know, that ain't gonna happen. You've been here 10 years.
Well, 11 now.
11, and I'm not about to cause any riff or whatever. I just want you to know that. I'm just here to play ball. You're the leader of this team, and I'm not getting in the way of that.
Listen now, Frank. We both been in the big leagues for a while now, right? You've been MVP. I've been MVP.
Yeah.
I'll be 29 in May, and you're 30. Mm-hmm. An old 30.
Hey, now, careful.
Point is, we're leaders just by years. I think you and me are older than everybody, except maybe Aparicio. And hey, I know it sounds corny, but this team is like family, and we're happy to have you part of it.
I still think that even though it's somewhat symbolic, some might even say it's almost a corny thing. The character who, by the way, played Brooks Robinson, the Brooks Robinson character is played by your own son in this play.
Nick. Yeah.
But it was something. It was a moment, and people saw that. My question is, how important or how significant is sports and friendship and social issues as it was for Jackie Robinson in 1947? And how important was this story in terms of somewhat, even on a small level, healing some tensions in Baltimore?
Oh, I think it was very important. I mean, think of the symbolism just of the names. You mentioned Robinson. Black Robinson, White Robinson come together. They make the cover of Sports Illustrated magazine. I remember being a kid, seeing that cover. I think, there's a black guy named Robinson, a white guy named Robinson, and they just won the World Series. They worked together to do this. And that happened while there was all this tension bubbling up in Baltimore City, while there was actually the Ku Klux Klan was here, and some really, really outspoken racists were in town trying to fight fair housing, open housing in Baltimore City. So while that was going on, then there was all this tension, all this angst, and then people looked up, and there's the Orioles, Black Robinson and White Robinson leading the team to a World Series. So I think it was important. The mayor, McKeldin, says that in the play. He says, I was hoping that the world would look our way and see these two men and see that a black man and a white man can work together and achieve something. So yeah, I hope it impressed some people back in 1966. It opened some people's eyes to that possibility in segregated Baltimore. But it's a lesson to be learned, I think, today, really. I mean, I think his story is very relevant to what's happening today. The mayor even says, the character, McKeldin says, we've been fighting these battles now for a long time, and we're finally getting somewhere. But if we don't learn to live together, we could be fighting these same battles 50, 60 years from now. And when he says that in the play, you can hear people in the audience sort of gasping
Yeah,
or that
it is
makes
very, it
yeah,
is very relevant. It is.
yeah.
What do you hope for this play? I personally think it would make a terrific movie. I
Yeah.
also think it could make a great documentary using the juxtaposition of the actual scenes from this play to tell the story. What do you want for it?
Well, I like what you were saying before. You had Jackie Robinson in 47, right? And so almost 20 years later, now there's the next stage, right here, where black players are becoming more integrated into baseball, and the Orioles did not have a lot of black players. It was pretty slow to integrate, but when it finally did happen, when they got Frank Robinson over to the Orioles together, I mean that's the next part of that story.
Yeah,
That's like what happened next after Jackie Robinson, right?
yeah,
We've seen 42. It's time to move on and see, okay, what happened in the 60s?
yeah.
And then, in the 60s were full of tumult all over the country. But what was going on in baseball during that time? So, yeah, I think it's a good story.
Well, I think you bring it out beautifully. Interestingly, people may not know this, but Barbara Robinson, and a bit ironic, and you mentioned it at the end of the play, became the top realtor
Yeah.
in the city of Los Angeles. So,
Yeah.
celebrity realtor, one of the biggest, and has been for decades. She sold a house to Denzel Washington, to Barry Bonds, I believe Michael Jackson. So she's a wildly successful realtor, whatever, 60 years removed from that ugly
Yeah.
incident. Isn't that
Right.
interesting?
From when she couldn't rent a house in Baltimore. Right. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
He who laughs last, right? I guess.
Dan Rodricks, I appreciate so much you're taking the time. I wish you the very best of luck with this, not just the play, but whatever else it evolves into. It could be a movie. I think it'd be a great movie. I think it'd be a fine documentary. But you telling that story will go a long way in defining that. And I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you for your help with this, Roy. I really appreciate it. And when we stage this play again, maybe you'll come to Baltimore and see it.
I would love it. Brooks and Frank were very close to me. Brooks was like almost a father figure to me. I've known them since I was Bat Boy, some 55 years ago, believe it or
Right.
not.
Right.
So I do have a place in my heart for this thing, and I really wish it well. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Roy.
Okay. And thank you, everybody, for watching this program. We'll see you next time.